U.S. History B Virtual Interactive Notebook 2, Day 3, Victory in Europe. Title that, Day 3, Victory in Europe. Your essential question today, how did the Allies win in Europe? The main idea is victory in Europe, and the subtopics are Big Three, campaigns, and Eastern Front. Go ahead and set up your notes, and today's lesson is based on Chapter 27, Section 3 of your book, which I have linked. We're going to begin with Big Three. Hitler invaded Poland. That was the last straw. So Britain and France declared war on Germany. And during World War I, Germany had fought Russia. So Hitler's generals didn't really want to fight Russia and fight Britain and France. That had been a disaster in World War I. It had split German forces into two separate wars, essentially. And they begged him not to do that. Hitler signed a non-aggression pact with Russia. And then Hitler invaded Poland. Hitler took about 2/3 of Poland, and Russia took 1/3 of Poland. And Stalin thought that they were probably going to go to war at some point, but not yet. And they were sending each other essentially love letters back and forth. Hitler told Stalin, I can't believe how many of your own people you kill and you're still in power. And Stalin told Hitler, I can't believe how much your people love you, because a lot of Russians hated Stalin, but they also feared him, and that's how he kept power. So in World War II, the Allies for this round will be the Big Three. And I want you to write down the country and the leader of that country. So for the Big Three, I want you to write Britain, and the leader of Britain was Winston Churchill. So write Britain, Churchill. Churchill is spelled Churchill, Churchill. Also write USA, FDR, Franklin Roosevelt, was president of the United States during most of World War II. And then write USSR, which stands for Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, / Russia. And the leader of Russia was Stalin, Stalin. Wait a minute, wasn't Stalin a totalitarian dictator? You bet he was. He killed 2 million of his own people in the Red Terror. There's a movie, it's probably not appropriate for kids, but it's pretty good. It's called The Death of Joseph Stalin, and it illustrates this. It's out on Netflix now, I think. Stalin just, if someone in Stalin's Soviet Union said something against Stalin, they would be killed just flat out. It became routine for patrols of NKVD, the Russian secret police, to just sweep through cities and round people up, send them off to gulags. The gulags were places like Kolyma, I think it's called, which is out in Siberia, and people starved. He ran death camps. He ran Hitler-style death camps. He killed outright 2 million people. Unknown millions died in death camps. Unknown millions starved just through sheer incompetence with agriculture. He deliberately starved to death something like 2 million Ukrainians because Ukrainians didn't really like the Soviet Union. So he just took all the food. Literally, he just took the food out of Ukraine and starved the Ukrainians to death in something called the Holodomor. But he didn't like Hitler after Hitler invaded Russia. So Hitler and Russia had a non-aggression pact, but Hitler went back on it, and in Operation Barbarossa invaded Russia. Now, when Hitler took over Western Europe, he ran military discipline with the Wehrmacht, the German army, but in Russia, he suspended military discipline, which meant German troops could do anything they wanted to the Russian people, and they did. And the Russians hated Stalin. And at first, Russians were throwing flowers at German troops because they thought that the communist thing was over. But then the Germans were actually worse, and the Russians would come to hate the Germans more than Stalin. And today, Stalin is celebrated by some people as a national hero, bizarre though that may be. Okay, moving on. We're going to move on to campaigns. So the campaigns. First, Stalin was fighting this gigantic war against Germany. In fact, most German soldiers who died in World War II died fighting the Russians, not the Allies. He wanted the Allies to put pressure on Germany to take pressure off of Russia, the Russian front, the Eastern Front. So to oblige him, the Allies invaded North Africa. Germany had taken over parts of North Africa, particularly oil fields. So in something called Operation Torch, the Allies drove Germany out of North Africa. Now, with that done, okay, the Germans are out of North Africa, the Allies are sitting in North Africa, and the Germans could throw all their resources back into the Eastern Front. The Allies were planning to invade France, but Stalin wanted a second front open now. So to oblige him again, the Allies invaded Italy and Sicily. So now the Germans have to throw troops south to fight the Allied invasions in Italy and Sicily. So I want you to write, after North Africa, write Italy and Sicily. And that was Operation Husky. Finally, the Allies invaded France, and we call that the invasion of Normandy. Normandy is Western France. It's called Normandy because the Vikings, the Norse, the Normans, invaded it 1,000 years ago, and that's where they settled, and that's why it's called Normandy. So the United States and Britain built up soldiers in Britain for a couple of years, and then on what we call D-Day, crossed the English Channel and invaded France. Drove on Berlin, and that was that. We are grossly simplifying all of this, right? So we have the North African campaign, which was Operation Torch, and the Italian campaign, which was Operation Husky, and then we have D-Day in France. And that's Operation Overlord, if you're curious, but we call it D-Day now. I want you to watch the video about D-Day and take 2 notes. What are the 2 most important things to know from the video? Finally, I want you to watch the video on the Eastern Front. I just want you to see, however briefly, how horrible this was. So take 2 notes about the Eastern Front, and I want you to mention Stalingrad. Now, something that's not going in your notes, but that I think it's important to know, is that the Germans treated the Russians so badly that when the Russians invaded Germany, Russian generals told their troops, well, you can do to the Germans what the Germans did to us. And the estimates are that the Russian army, when it invaded Germany, killed 2 million German civilians. Yeah. So Germany paid a price for their actions in Russia. And all of this is horrible. I'm not saying, oh, see, that what Russia did in Germany was pretty disgusting. So that is that for today. So we have gone through the big 3. We've talked about the campaigns, North Africa, Italy, and the invasion of France. We've talked about the Eastern Front. You're going to watch 2 videos. For today's output, I want you to hand draw a map of Europe and North Africa. And you can look at supplemental stuff online if you need to know which place is which. And I want you to put a star where each campaign happens. So you're going to put a star on North Africa, a star on Italy, a star on France, and a star in Russia for the Eastern Front. And I want you to label these campaigns. So the star in North Africa will say Operation Torch, Invasion of North Africa, for example. And that will be your output for today. I will see you tomorrow for day 4. Thank you.